Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We upload an episode of this podcast every single week, so whether you're new here or if you're returning and you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That is the best way you can help support the podcast, and it also ensures you do not miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with Nick Sweeney. Nick is a coach for athletes. He is a former Division 1 ski racer. Nick focuses on using breath work to help athletes heal from injuries and improve their performance, and he also works with athletes on their mindset too. Nick shared with me what I think is the best piece of mindset advice for athletes that I have ever heard. He also shared how you can use breath work to improve your athletic performance and heal from injuries quicker. In doing so, he shared specific breathwork protocols that he uses. This is quite esoteric, but Nick really shared so much value that I think athletes should really be taking on board to help them improve their athletic performance and help themselves heal from injuries quicker. I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you do, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up as well, drop a comment below, share it around on social media. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Ra Optics. These are the best blue blocker glasses on the market. Staring at a screen all day can drain your energy, give you eye strain, headaches, mood imbalances. These babies eliminate all of the aforementioned. Ra Optics help me every day when I'm filming podcasts, editing podcasts, writing the Being Human newsletter on my laptop, doing all the stuff on social media. Wearing these helps keep my mood elevated, helps keep my focus locked in, reduces eye strain, reduces headaches. These really are a game changer. So if you're having to stare at a screen all day, every day, get yourself a pair of these. All you need to do is head to raoptics.com and use the code WAGLELE to get 10% off. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee. You do not need to be a grappler to drink it. This is simply great coffee for anybody who loves to get caffeinated and drink good coffee. It is incredibly potent in its caffeination, but it has a beautifully smooth taste. Grappler's Coffee helps me get supercharged for my workouts. It helps me stay productive throughout the day. All you need to do to pick up a bag of this is to head to mrbassets.com and use the code WAG10 to get 10% off your order. Okay, awesome. We're rolling. So to kick it off for us, Nick, could you tell us please who you are, what you do, your background as an athlete, and what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I am a performance coach for pro athletes, collegiate athletes, and athletes that are aiming for the stars. And I'm from Colorado. I grew up ski racing, cross-country ski racing, grew up cycling, running, all sorts of stuff. I ended up choosing cross-country ski racing as my sport of choice, and I ended up going to one of the top schools, if not the top school for ski racing in the US, and spent 5 years there. One of those years was a redshirt year because I got injured and I was unable to walk properly for 10 months. I didn't really know what was happening. It was during COVID, and I was told that my career was over. I probably wouldn't walk again. And I ended up healing myself in 3 months with breath work and a few other things, and was able to race at the US Nationals the next year, captain the team, finish off the career. And congruently, while I was doing this, I was running a sports nutrition company and then a sports agency for athletes looking for sponsors. So that was really the 1, 2, 3. I just quit my job 3 weeks ago from an oil and gas technology company here in Austin, Texas. And I've gone all in on the coaching just because it resonates more with me. It had replaced my income with me putting minimal effort into it. And it's something that I believe I can do very well and serve athletes very well, because I understand how their minds work and the pressures that are associated with performing on a team, for a coach, for a school, for a country, and then all of the associated issues when you are injured or sick or not performing well as well. So I get to kind of play on both sides of that edge. And yeah, that's that's really my 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure if I'm missing on a question there, but that's the 1, 2, 3.
Well, no, that answered my question perfectly. But there you surmised something very succinctly and tidily, which I think really is a story in itself that I want to pick into. You had what sounds to be a catastrophic injury. What was the injury you sustained?
I split my shin open during COVID. I was making mountain bike trails in my yard because I was going stir crazy, and split my shin open. That was pretty minor. I mean, I hit the bone and got stitches and whatever, but I torqued my large metatarsal in my foot such that there was this massive bundle of scar tissue that accumulated under the big ball of my foot, and super painful, tons of inflammation, unable to walk right. You know, when you're walking, like, you use that big ball of your foot pretty heavily, especially for sort of the release into that next step. And I just couldn't do that. I was unable to train. I was early in the year, so we trained from April. We have an off season of pretty much the last 2 weeks of April, and then it's May 1st back to, you know, at least 50 hours a month. And the injury happened late May. Spent the whole summer rehabbing, like doing dry needling, doing ice bath, doing physical therapy every single day, blood flow restriction bands, like you name it. I didn't want to do surgery because when they cut open if they make an incision, then there's just going to create more scar tissue as well. So they would cut out a big ball of scar tissue, but there'd be scar tissue left over. So I was like, this has to be some sort of an inside out function. And I just was depressed as fuck and didn't know what to do, and was, you know, October, I had the impetus to go to see another doctor. And that was when he's like, I think you have a fibroma, but we don't know. It's usually not at that place on the foot. There's not really a good solution for plantar fibroma, and I'm not even sure that that's what it is. But since it hurts so much, here's some painkillers. I would highly face the reality that your career is over and you might walk in a year again without pain, and probably not walking normally. So I took that with, I didn't even know how to kind of comprehend that, because in the back of my mind for the 10 months I was healing, I was like, I know I can get back to it. Like, something's got to happen. It's going to change. It's going to heal. And then by 10 months, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? And then to hear that news that, you know, hang it up, was difficult. And so I spiraled for, you know, a week or so. Didn't really have the motivation to even try to keep banging the doors and figuring out what was going on. I just kind of became complacent for about a week. And then I picked myself up. I was like, fuck this. I started doing a bunch of upper body work, and I ended up pulling my rib out doing pull-ups. And then I was literally like paralyzed within my body, essentially. Like, I had the upper body was fucked up. My foot's fucked up. I have no energy. And I tried meditation. I tried transcendental meditation, but it was driving me nuts. I couldn't really do it. And it was just this barrage of negative thoughts. I mean, my entire identity for 12 years had been wrapped up in this endurance sport. You know, at 500 hours a year, it just consumes you. You know, because you're training for something right now. It's all consuming, and you just eat yourself alive when you can't go do it. When you're injured or when you're sick, it's like the kiss of death. And I was just besides myself. And I started doing the meditation, and I couldn't do the meditation. And I started doing, I had done Wim Hof sort of for performance reasons when I was competing. I would like pancake in the snow outside a cabin at night, the night before a race, doing the Wim Hof. And then I would race lights out. And that was always performance. But then I just did it because it felt good. It was sort of this active recovery workout that I could do on my back in my bed. And I started doing it every single day for 30 minutes, right when I woke up. to different music, to different guided ones on YouTube. Like I was just pulling at straws and just like, this makes me feel better. It gives me some energy. And then I started really honing in on that. Like I bought Wim Hof's course. I read Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. I just went down rabbit hole after rabbit hole because I had time on my hands. I mean, it was COVID. I was taking minimal classes. I was at home because I was like not training with the team or whatever. So I was in the lab for 3 months and just stayed with that consistency. It's like, okay, I'm on a streak right now. I've done breath work every single day for a week. I'm going to do that every single day. And it became clear to me that like, this is I had gotten to the point where I was like, I don't give a fuck if it takes me 10 years to heal from this thing using breath work. I know that I can do this with breath work. After a week, I knew I could do it. And I didn't care how long it took. So it was just a matter of every day, this is what I'm doing now. This is my life now. Like, all I get to do is breathe on my back in bed. Fuck it. So be it. I don't give a shit. I will come back at some form or fashion. A big light bulb was when I focused on my injury for the entire 30 minutes and like held my concentration and my attention at that place with the intention of just sending it energy. And my right foot was way warmer than my left. And that was a big light bulb moment. Like after 30 minutes, I was like, oh, I get it. I'm sending resources consciously to the foot, to the injury. And another light bulb moment was I got cut off in traffic and I had zero increase in my heart rate, or my nervous system did not go into fight or flight or anything. And I was like, that's interesting. Like I had the thought of like, what a fucking idiot. But then I checked in with my body and I was cool as a cucumber. And I was like, okay, so I'm training my nervous system to be able to handle pressure to an extent that it wasn't able to prior, even when I was competing. So it was a journey of 3 months, me doing breath work, just staying with it, getting to the point where I could walk 1 minute, and then 2 minutes, and then 3, and then 2 minutes, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. And it's like I just crawled my way out of this fucking pit. And got to the point where by May 1st, I was able to like train and do an 80-hour month. And just, my right leg, it's still a little smaller than my left because of the atrophy of those 10 months. But it's just a strong, like full resurrection of the body during that time. And really more, it started with the foot, but it turned into, I can send energy to my brain. I can send energy to my immune system, my gut when I'm feeling sick. I can send energy. I broke my bone. I broke my arm and my wrist last fall, and I healed it in 5-6 weeks. And the doctor said it's normally 12 weeks. And usually people have to get surgery for the sesamoid bone. I think it's the sesamoid bone in the wrist. And I healed in 5-6 weeks. And again, the doctor was like, what have you been doing? And I'm like, this is what I've been doing. Breath work, light, water, electromagnetism, good sleep, good food, minimal supplements, mentality, a deep understanding that the mind is the manufacturer of the body, and that my mindset and my beliefs are going to dictate my reality. My thoughts are going to dictate my reality. So it was just iron and steel in the mind more than anything. And that's where I think that's the most value I'm able to provide really with these athletes, because the mind, body, and spirit are not separate. You're one unified vessel of power. And if you have a kink in the power, well, if the body's not working or the mind's not working or the spirit is convoluted for some reason, then you're not going to be as thermodynamic, as powerful. So that's a little bit of a recap on that. But yeah, it's really just a belief with every breath, with every inhale. Every inhale is the purest expression of willpower, in my opinion. Every exhale is the purest expression of acceptance and surrender. And you just do that over and over and over. You just hardwire it into your brain. You just repeat to yourself, inhale, strength, exhale, acceptance, inhale, faith, exhale, fear, inhale, energy, exhale, stress, whatever it is. And I believe that the breath is the razor's edge between the conscious and the unconscious. You're breathing unconsciously right now, normally, automatically, but you You press together your intention and your attention, the two superpowers of your consciousness, and it becomes a physical manifestation in the body, and you can dictate your physiology. So it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound crazy to people that haven't really done breath work before, committed themselves to breath work, experienced the effects of breath work and meditation. But you mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza there, and people like Dr. Joe Dispenza are building a larger and larger bank at the moment of stories like your story that you've just outlined here, where people have healed themselves completely and quite rapidly in most cases from autoimmune conditions, injuries, things that conventional medicine doctors don't have an explanation for, or all their protocols, all the pharmacology in the world could not help them. And then people have been to see people like Dr. Joe Dispenza. They've undertaken protocols like those you've just outlined, and they've been able to have the effects like you've just said yourself. They've done what doctors have told them were not possible. I think you said you were about a week into starting this breath work and you were doing Wim Hof methods, and you said, that's it. I know no matter how long it takes, if I continue with this breath work, even if it's for 10 years, I'm going to heal myself. What was it that you felt in that first week that gave you that confidence, that gave you that faith that this was the right path?
I would say that it wasn't as much a feeling. Like, I felt horrible. I felt like a shell of a human for a lot of that time, those 3 months, that 1 week, those 3 months. Like, I was not feeling great. It was more those inspiring stories from Wim Hof, from Dispenza, like people, having lifelong blindness reverse at an event. And that's happened more than a handful of times now with Joe's work. And so it was these stories of like, okay, well, the doctor has labeled me as XYZ. He's not giving me any hope. He's not giving me anything that I know truly is going to be constructive in my healing process. This seems like the next best option, the only option truly, and the option that resonates with me most. Okay, this is something I can do and work towards every single day. This is something I have an ounce of control over, versus what the doctor says or what the protocol is for PT. It's like you just do your PT, you do your thing. With breath work, it was like a journey, because I'm doing the Wim Hof thing, and then I start kind of doing my own thing, and I start just following what was feeling good, what made me feel uplifted, what sort of raised my vibration, and then also moving my core muscles, moving my physical body during the breath work and during certain holds, to literally just flush energy to the foot. It was really, that was not in the first week. The first week was just like seeing videos online, seeing these stories of people healing themselves with something that face value is way worse than me, like blindness for your entire life, or cancer, or Parkinson's, or autoimmune diseases. It's like mine was a very mechanical injury. It's like, okay, we have a bundle of scar tissue here, ball of scar tissue here. What do we do with it? I don't know. But with an autoimmune disease or cancer or some of these other things, it can be so much more complicated and convoluted, and there's so many different stories of what to do. And just the fact that people were having success with this, and it resonated with me because I had the athlete thing, the background, like, okay, my mindset is super important. That's what dictates, the 1% from the 99. The physical body is going to respond to my mentality. And if I believe that this is what's going to work, if I believe I'm my own medical establishment, and if I believe that the breath is going to give me that invincibility in my health, then I don't think it's going to take 10 years. But if it does, I'm ready.
And you mentioned as well other things you were doing, of course, which almost kind of prerequisites, right? You've got to have good sleep and good food as well. Any foods in particular? I suppose this is a wider question going into your coaching as well. Are there foods that you recommend athletes eat, especially when they have an injury? Obviously, protein is going to help, right? A certain threshold of protein. But any specific foods that you were eating that you felt really helped your progress?
Yeah, the diet is not as important as people think, in my opinion. But it is absolutely important. Like, your inputs are really important. For when I was healing, I didn't think too hard. I wasn't on some specific diet. I was slamming bone broth, and that's what I recommend a lot of guys do, because a lot of people are eating too much red meat and their amino acid profile is out of whack, and so that bone broth is going to rebalance that amino acid profile, and it has loads of collagen, minerals, vitamins, glutamine, like really good for the gut. And I believe a lot of healing starts and ends in the gut. So bone broth is huge. I'm not a huge fan of like anti-inflammatories in general, like even tart cherry. They're just band-aids, and they're blunting the signal of the body. Like, if you injure yourself and then you take a bunch of Advil, then your body doesn't get the response of like, something's wrong, we need to create anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, whatever. So I was eating a lot of like grass-fed, grass-finished, local steak. I was eating a lot of eggs, ton of kimchi, ton of alfalfa sprouts, broccoli sprouts, because those are really good for the gut. They have a certain compound in them that's like anti-cancer, and has helped a lot of people that I've worked with that have had celiac or gut issues. So sprouts is huge. Blueberries, like local fruit. For anyone that's looking for a diet that's going to help them heal the fastest, they should look at what their near vicinity is. What is the latitude that you're on? And you should be eating what your body is sort of like located next to. You don't want to be confusing your mitochondria living in Finland and eating like a banana in the winter. Your body's going to be like, what the fuck is this? Because we have a certain level of intelligence within the body, especially I think if you are really grounded in your location and in your community, in your vicinity, then you kind of know, okay, this is the weather, this is the season, this is the time of year, we should be eating X. If we were at the equator, okay, yeah, let's eat a bunch of bananas. But I would say that you need to use some discernment, and what makes the most sense for you is highly customized and unique. So I think that the basis though should be a lot of protein right in the morning, like big breakfasts. If you're trying to heal, within the first 120 minutes, like try to have 50 grams of protein. Avoid protein shakes that have nonsense in them. Avoid anything that's nonsense. Pretty much just single ingredient foods. Fruits and vegetables, like people are anti fruits and vegetables. I'm like, fruits are great. Some vegetables are not so dope in my opinion, but they're really good for you anyways. So depends again on where you are in the world and what your body resonates with. I didn't think too hard about the diet because I had already kind of dialed in the diet as one of the first things I did in May when I got injured.
Like, okay. Well, that's it. It sounds like, yeah, you had your diet dialed in as it already as a foundational principle. Unfortunately, a lot of people probably aren't where they need to be with their diet. So that's something to consciously focus on. And like you said, I think you outlined that brilliantly, the kind of foods they should be consuming. Sorry, not to cut you off.
No problem at all. I mean, what I wasn't focusing on for those first 10 months was the most important things and the basis of my health philosophy and what it takes to perform at your peak, heal, and live in accordance with nature is light, water, and electromagnetism. You got your raw optics on right now. Light is so huge. It's a direct input of energy for the body. Electromagnetism, like you're an electromagnetic being, you should be grounding, you should be unplugging all of the outlets at night. There's a whole slew of things to do to keep the resilience of your electromagnetic field intact, and the resilience of like the cell membranes in your body. The gradient needs to be high so that you can create a lot of energy and so that you can be resilient to these free radicals that we're bombarded with, because we all have microplastics in our balls nowadays. But light, water, and electromagnetism. Water is huge. You're an athlete, you're probably more than 60+% water. So light, water, and electromagnetism is another thing I honed in on, in addition to the breath, and it all synchronized very harmoniously in this sort of upward spiral where, whether you're trying to perform at your peak or you're trying to heal, the pyramid can only go as high as it is wide. Same with training. You want to be doing a certain, like if you're a cardio guy, zone 2 training is the base of the pyramid. You can only go as high as your base. In health and in peak performance for just energy, not even the biology and the physics of your body, as much light as possible, as much sleep as possible, as much grounding as possible, homeostasis with the electricity in your body, as much clean water and minerals to conduct those signals as possible, semen retention, good food, breath work, all that stuff is the base. And then we can get into the nervous system, and then we can get into the mindset. So that's how I sort of lay these things out as I see it at this point in my life.
With the water, any particular amount of water that you were drinking, or any particular kind of water? Obviously, we have things now such as distilled water, alkaline water. Was there a certain protocol there?
The biggest thing is just get the toxins out for anyone. Like, that's what I would recommend anyone first and foremost, is just find water or a filter, not a Brita, because they're in like 3 class action lawsuits, and a Berkey's are in lawsuits. Like, I have an at-home system right now that's alkaline water. And that was more of like a test. And there's also like, it's hydrogen infused as well. Really the best is water that is structured, H3O2, and then water that is clean and full of minerals, natural minerals. So it's definitely, that's a tall order. That's a tall order in this day and age. But if you can either get like Mountain Valley spring water delivered to your door, or one of these higher quality brands, even the higher quality brands, when they get too big, I get suspicious, because the bureaucracy can have them cut corners and suddenly there's fluoride in it or whatever. But Aquapana, San Pellegrino, I think, has a little bit of fluoride in it. Mountain Valley has a little bit of fluoride in it. I don't know if they're adding it into Mountain Valley or not, but I'm keeping tabs on these things. I think that follow your intuition ultimately. Like, if you're drinking out of a faucet and you kind of aren't craving water as much, then that's a sign. If you are like itching after your shower, then like that's a sign. Get a shower filter. Don't go in chlorine pools if you can. Sometimes you got to crack a beer in a hot tub, but whatever. And the structured water is really interesting because of the ability to hydrate yourself. So really, like, people are drinking way too much water and are under mineralized, especially in the US. And I'd imagine maybe in the UK, like, our soils are crap. We've depleted the soils. We aren't getting the minerals that we are supposed to get. And that leads to some serious problems downstream for the human body that is going to be ugly for the majority of people in the world. Like, we're facing a real chronic health disease epidemic in America that I think it's about to get really ugly. I'm not a doomsday guy. I have a lot of optimism for the future as well. But I was just kind of all over the country for the past 3 weeks, and I just saw a lot of people that asleep at the wheel. And you gotta look after yourself. You gotta be sovereign. You gotta find your own water, find your little grounding spot, get a lot of sunlight, get a red light, blue light blocking glasses, try to get away from the EMFs as much as possible. And then you can really supercharge with breath and with nervous system regulation and with exercise and movement and all that kind of stuff. So it all compounds on itself. But for water, like coconut water is great. It's also a really big deal is like, what's the container? Is it plastic? Is it a can with plastic coating on the inside? Or is it glass? Even metal can erase the charge of the water. So like glass is best. And I don't have it in my room, but I have a Vortex magnetic energizer vortexing bottle. That's you vortex it on one side and then you flip it and you vortex it again. I'll send you the link after this, but that structures the water. And you know how you get into the ocean and it feels like alive, the water? that's what it feels like in your mouth when you drink it after you vortex it, because it's structured, it's alive, it's cleansed itself of the memory or particles that are not part of the innate structure of the water. So you sort of cleanse it back to a pure state, because water holds memory, which is another rabbit hole that you can go down. But that's why, if you're one way, this may be super esoteric and maybe everyone's going to, hop off the pot after I say this, but if you're in the shower, water holds memory. You can infuse intention into water. And so as water is running down you can think, you can charge the water with your intention as it runs down your brain. And then it runs down into your gut and you're like, heal my gut, heal my gut, heal my heart, heal my face, whatever. That's something that I've done in the past. I have no idea if it works, but I believe it works.
And you know what? The scientific studies will tell you that at the end of the day, the number one thing is, do you believe it works? They've done studies now where they've had people take creatine, people take white powder that's essentially nothing, and obviously they've had all the control groups in place. And basically all it mattered was, when it came to gaining muscle mass, water retention, gaining strength, was, did people think they were taking creatine? And the same was even done for steroids as well. I forgot whose podcast it was I was listening to. So I don't have the study on hand, but they did a study as well recently. Same thing with steroids. People were being injected with something that was completely innocuous. Some people were being injected with steroids and told they weren't taking steroids, and vice versa. The people that were being injected with something innocuous were told they were taking steroids. And basically, when they looked at increases in strength, increases in muscle mass, all that mattered was whether they thought they were. And this is crazy, right? But it just goes to show the power of belief. To go back to the water, though, I mean, I 100% agree when it comes to the quality of water. And I accidentally ran the experiment myself a few months ago, because I went to Romania for 10 days. So I live in Britain. Romania is, a very different country geographically and in many other ways. So whenever, it's kind of like I don't know how you guys do it in America, but in Britain, if we go anywhere outside of Britain, it is the traditional thing to do to not drink the tap water, no matter where we are in the world, even Europe, for fear of getting an upset stomach. So for 10 days, I drank nothing but bottled water. And when I came back after those 10 days and I went back to drinking the tap water at home, the taste, number one, was night and day. It tasted disgusting after only drinking mineral water right out the bottle. And as well, it took me a lot more water. And even then, I didn't really feel satiated and hydrated in the way that I did when I was drinking mineral water out in Romania. I was having to drink a lot more water. And even then, I still wasn't getting the same feeling of fullness, satiety, and hydration that I was there. And then the next step on from that was, we were out in Transylvania for some time while I was in Romania, and there they had, in the village where we were staying, they had a well, the village well. So obviously this is completely natural water, like you said, water that's alive. And I wasn't bothered about drinking that because obviously it's from a natural spring. We pulled up the water from the well, had this metal cup, took a sip from it, and it was the most beautiful water I have ever drank. It's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't done it, but go up into the mountains, the closest mountains that you live to, and drink from a stream, drink from a natural spring, a natural well. And the taste of water is completely different to that you get out of the tap. And like I said, whether it's the power of belief or not, I think there's plenty of science now to back it up. The hydration that you get from it, the feeling that you get from drinking that water is incredibly different as well. So yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about there, and I'm right with you on it. Let's go more into the breathwork protocols, because we kind of started on that, and then we went off into food and water. In terms of breathwork protocols, give me your favourite breathwork protocols for athletes to improve their performance, and your favourite protocols, breathwork-wise, for them to improve their recovery or heal from an injury. Because I suppose, are the two different, or are the protocols the same in that regard?
No, they're different. And I'll preface it with what I do is take athletes from a automatic transmission where you drive neutral and reverse, and I take them and turn them into a manual transmission where you can shift up before a workout, you shift down after a workout, you shift down before a meal, you shift down before you go to bed, you shift up when you wake up, you shift up before a podcast, but then you shift down right before the podcast starts so that you're centered and focused and so that your consciousness is accumulated, not scattered. So for an athlete, it is dependent on what the sport is, but most every athlete is going to be enduring some cardio for fitness. So one of my favorite breaths that I literally haven't Googled this, so it might be a breath work that already is out there, but I think I came up with it. But it's very similar to the physiological side that Huberman has, where and there's a bunch of studies behind that one, but you breathe in, 90%, and then you breathe in 10% quickly, and then you breathe a long exhale out. And that's like corporate breathing, where you downshift your nervous system really quickly. For an athlete who is doing exercise, cardio, or in between a round or something, I would recommend continue to load up on resources and load up on oxygen through the VO2 max breath, is what I'm coining it, where you breathe in, ideally, through the nose or through the nose and the mouth at the same time. You breathe in about 80%, 75%, and then you will breathe in the rest to the top with more of a pump sort of function, sort of like the physiological side. So it would be something like, and you'd breathe out of your nose, your mouth. And what that does is it fills up the alveoli sacs, it increases your gas exchange, it increases the amount of oxygen that you're able to take in. If you were to breathe in really quickly, like that oxygen had no time to absorb in the lungs. So that's why nose breathing is more efficient in general, no matter what you're doing. But that's why the longer exhales will increase your oxygenation and increase your nitric oxide production. No nitric oxide production gets created or incited through the mouth breathing, but through the nose breathing. And so that's like during a workout, VO2 max breathing, very similar to the physiological side, sort of a hybrid between the Wim Hof and the physiological side. The key with...
Sorry, just to interrupt. How long are you looking for on that inhale? And how long are you looking for on that exhale in terms of time, seconds?
I mean, it depends on the intensity of your exercise. So if you're in between a set at the gym, let's say, you could probably do, 4 seconds in and then 2 seconds in and then 8 seconds out. 6 seconds in, 8 seconds out is a good nervous system down regulator in and of itself, but you're getting a bit more energy when you're doing the 4 seconds in. We'll see if your audience can hear me. So that is for when you're working out really hard, though. If you're sort of like near red line while you're running, it's going to be quick. It's going to be like, and you're just kind of like cycling.
So what happened? So sorry, what matters more? Sorry, is the process of it, the structure of it, rather than a specific duration.
Yeah, I mean, your body is going to give you the duration really based on the intensity. If you're going really hard, it's going to be tough to do a long inhale and a long exhale. But you do want to prolong the inhales and exhales. You want to slow the breathing down no matter the intensity, because that's going to keep you in more of a rest and restoration nervous system state, which is ideal if you're in between a set, if you're in between intervals, if you are in between competitions or whatever. We don't want to be wasting energy. We don't want to be a bonfire of energy. We want to be a flamethrower. So we want to be able to control the breath for those peak moments, and be able to attach our consciousness to the breath during those peak moments so that we don't crack under pressure. So it's one thing to get a bunch of energy, gaining resources, It's another thing to downshift. And if anyone walks away with anything from this podcast, it would be this. When your inhales are longer than your exhales, you are gaining energy, you're increasing your heart rate, you're increasing fight or flight, you're increasing your resources, your oxygenation, and your body temperature. When the exhale is longer than the inhale, you're decreasing your heart rate, your rest and digest, rest and resurrection, rest and restoration, lower heart rate, lower body temperature, lower nervous system reactivity. Those two levers in and of themselves are so powerful, and that's going to take you from an automatic to a manual. And if you can just, let me take some long exhales before dinner. Let me take some long inhales before this meeting so I can kind of rally a little bit because I'm tired. Those are like two key pivotal ones. And as we sort of talked about, like the duration of the exhales or the inhales, it's going to be dependent, and you can play with it and you can make it your own journey and you can customize these things. Or you can, I've got 15, 20 types of breath work. You can go on YouTube. You can look up all these types of durations for certain things. Like for you, because you're more MMA, you're grappling, like that control of the breath is so key and pivotal to staying in your center. Like you're going to have thoughts. We all have thoughts in those key moments of fear. They're really based and predicated upon fear. And to be able to attach yourself to the breath and detach from the outcome, from the negative thoughts, from the negative feelings in the body through just feeling them, releasing them, and then being fully present, single pointed focus in the moment. You're a flamethrower. Your consciousness is accumulated because your breathing is slow. It's controlled. It's conscious. That is going to give you more consciousness over your movements as you're grappling with someone. And in those moments where maybe you need to remain calm and remain centered, you're in a position where, you don't want to have the thoughts like, fuck, I can't get out. I don't know how to get out. Versus like, let me just take a sec, find my power. Okay, now we go. So that was a super long-winded schizo stream of consciousness answer for you. But to finalize the answer, when you want to downshift, really powerful ways to hum on the exhales for a long time. Really simple one is just 6 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Doesn't take a lot of brain power. You can hum on the exhale. That's going to vibrate your whole body. It's going to induce that rest and digest state. Or you do that corporate breathing, physiological sigh all the way in, 90%, little 10%, and then super long exhale. But the premise is longer exhale. And then we can get into some other crazy stuff as well. But longer inhale than exhale, increase in energy. Longer exhale than inhale, decrease in activity and energy.
Okay. So I suppose for performance, if you need to prioritize recovery, you need to prioritize staying calm and conscious. You're going to be focusing on those exhales. Say, to use my sport as an example, BJJ grappling. Say you feel asleep at the wheel, you can't really get going. You're midway through a match, and you need to psych yourself up. Focus on the inhale, and then I suppose because of that inhale, exhale, because of the effects that each of those have. When it's over on the recovery side of things, are you much more focused on the exhale, I imagine, than the inhale?
I'm focused on the exhale to downshift the nervous system, but then there's the next level. So like for performance, regardless, I'll outline the breath work that I've kind of created from that healing story from my foot. It's sort of what I started doing, which is, let me load up on a bunch of energy. Let me cultivate a bunch of energy. Let me sort of Wim Hof type breathing, not panic breathing, but longer inhales and exhales. I'm loading up. Now that I am full of resources and oxygen and energy, let me downshift the nervous system from a fight or flight state to a rest and restoration state. So let me flip the switch and know that my body has the intelligence to use all of these resources that I just got in the most efficient and powerful way. Additionally, after I've downshifted my nervous system, I'm going to just center myself. I'm going to concentrate my energy. So it's a 3-step process: cultivate, circulate, concentrate. That is, if you imagine it as a vortex, I'm getting big breaths in, lots of oxygen. Okay. Now I'm going to downshift. I'm going to do big breaths out. I'm going to circulate, get a little smaller, find equilibrium, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And then I'm going to vortex it all into one singular point of focus and energy. My favorite breath work to do that is called the vortex breath. And it's follows the Fibonacci sequence. The cadence creates a 5 ratio vortex of energy. And what it does is it's going to instantly center you, because it's going to find the edge between the fight or flight side of things and the rest and digest side of things. It's going to find that center. And it follows the sequence of nature that we find in all these spirals and all this kind of stuff. And what it is 13 seconds in, 13 seconds out. 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out, 1 second in, 1 second out. Hold, release all the tension in your body. Keep your eyes closed. Feel your entire body all at once. Hear the sounds, taste the taste, smell the smell. Open your eyes and you are present and in flow state and in your seat of personal power. And then you go take scalps on the mat from that point.
I love it. And I suppose that's the one example, isn't it? Take the scalps on the mat. The other example is you're consciously focusing on your area of injury, right? Or where you want to recover, where you want to heal. Okay. And just to confirm that, so you've done your Wim Hof. I suppose we should kind of quickly explain for people who don't know Wim Hof. I mean, there's loads of demonstrations on YouTube. It's basically conscious hyperventilating, right? Intentional hyperventilating, followed by those big exhales and sometimes breath holds to then down-regulate after you've up-regulated. And then you go into what you've dubbed the vortex breath, Nick, which is 13 seconds in, 13 seconds out, 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 3, 2, 1 seconds in and out. And then it's after that 1 second out, then you're holding.
You hold, and then once it's a little uncomfortable, like nothing crazy, you want to breathe as little as possible. When you are meditating, trying to heal, you're going to be focusing on a certain point in your body or whatever. But if you're stepping out onto the mat, after the vortex breath, keep your breathing super like a circle, not as small as possible. Like that's more Buteyko breathing for hypoxic training. But
I was just about when you said about as little as possible, Buteyko breathing came to mind. Yeah,
I just like to see it as that circle, and it's this conscious breath. It just remains conscious. That's the most important part. So, okay, I'm still with the breath. I opened up after the vortex, and I'm going to go still with the breath into suddenly then I'm fighting, and I'm not breathing consciously, but I am in such a relaxed place within my body, and I'm so present. I feel my body. I have all this energy, and I'm ready to go at a moment's notice. Or I'm going to sit and meditate after that vortex breath and just attach myself to the breath, either with a mantra, or you breathe in that circular way. It's very easy. It's not supposed to be hard by any means. And then the focus may change. You might focus on your gut. You might focus on your brain if you have a concussion, whatever it may be. But now you're that flamethrower. Now you're able to use the two superpowers of your consciousness, intention and attention, like they're steroids, because you have so much energy. Your body's in the absolute optimal state for recovery and performance. And it's not in that primal state anymore. Wim Hof is that primal state. I'm in that survival mode. I got to survive in the cold. I got to survive running away from a predator, whatever. Shift down into more of that powerful state, that power paradigm where I am naturally in my body in a state of presence where I can see the whole field all at once. I can be grounded in the sensations and in the senses around me. That's that power paradigm where I've got all of the fight or flight. I've got a bunch of adrenaline. I've got a bunch of energy. Now let me put it to use in a conscious way from a place of power. And as I concentrate it, then you get this momentum. You do this day after day. You start to realize, okay, these pathways, these synaptic pathways are being created. These new blood vessels are forming. That's where the real power comes. It's like that consistency. That's always been my X factor, is just consistency. I haven't missed a day of breath work in 4 years, meditation in 3 years, a bunch of other streaks I'm on. And if anyone, like for anyone that wants to get into breath work, like keep the bar low. Be like, I check the box on breath work every day if I do 10 conscious breaths. That's it. And if they want to get really real about it, I'm going to do the vortex breath every day before I meditate, or I'm going to do whatever it is that resonates with me, but I'm going to do it every single day and I'm going to be consistent with it, because that's where everyone wants a pill, but it's breath work for a reason.
And you said that circular breathing as little as possible, isn't quite Buteyko breathing. Can you just give an explanation of what you understand Buteyko breathing to be and why it is different to the circular breathing you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, Buteyko breathing is a really powerful type of breath work that is inducing an adaptation response in the body to become more efficient cardiovascularly. So it's increasing your CO2, your acidity in your body, and that is going to be the impetus for adaptation. So oxygen is the absence of all disease. With the Wim Hof, you load up on oxygen, you get a bunch of oxygen. But then with Buteyko, you would be increasing CO2. And CO2 then, if oxygen is the absence of all disease, then CO2 is like the propellant of life. And when you're breathing Buteyko, it's like as little as possible. You don't want to be breathing, you don't want to move your nose hairs in a tiny, tiny little circle. And every time you exhale, you hit sort of that level of acidity. It's like when you want to breathe in, but you keep it controlled in this circle, and whatever that level is of CO2 that you can handle, you just try to stay at that level, and you kind of just chip away and you dip in. You dip into the CO2, you dip into the acidity, and then you inhale and you keep it controlled as this circle. And you do that for a while. It's similar to like breathing 1 breath a minute. It's similar to holding your breath on the exhale or inhale, frankly, but that's all inducing that CO2 level to rise in the body, which is going to be a signal for the body to heal. If you have a fuckload of CO2 in your body's like, we need to make everything more efficient or we're going to die, because for some reason Arun keeps holding his breath. And I don't know why, but he's going to die if we don't make his heart more efficient, his brain more efficient, his organs more efficient, his gut more efficient, his muscle tissue more efficient. In that order, we will die. And that's what the power of breath really is. When you get to the core of it, it's like, I can voluntarily stress myself out, and it's internal stress, and I can create this adaptation response and signaling to my body, my heart, my brain, to become more efficient and to heal itself. A lot of people are stuck with injuries because they've stopped giving the stimulus. The doctor says rest on the couch, and they stagnate. The body's built to move, built to regenerate. If you smoked for 90 years, but for some reason you were able to live to 200, you would heal all of that damage. Like, it's just this engine of new adaptation, and it's a really beautiful thing. And I think that I want to give people their power back, and one of the best ways to get their power back is to take it back in through the breath and stop giving their power away to pill or a prescription or a doctor or a protocol or, whatever it is. Even really health conscious people like us, like we can find ourselves switching fear toggling. Oh, seed oils are bad, or oh, blue light's bad. When first I was like, the sun's bad. Now it's blue light's bad, and I'm afraid of both. Like, you don't want to placebo hack your way into disease, but the breath is a really powerful way to placebo hack your way into health and peak performance.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you've got obviously food, water, sleep, but it doesn't even account for what's even before that, the foundation before that. Before you need food, before you need sleep, before you need water, before you need food, you need breath. You need to be able to breathe. You need oxygen, and it's not just oxygen; it's CO2, it's nitrogen. So when people think, oh, why would I need breath work? Well, your breath is your life source. Before water, before food, before your need to rest, you're breathing throughout all of those, whether you're eating, whether you're drinking, whether you're sleeping, whether you're training or recovering, the breath is constant. So for someone to disregard that and think that there's no value in dialing in how they breathe, becoming conscious of how they breathe, the fact that breathwork protocols can't improve their performance, help them heal, help them recover, is crazy to me. It's your life source. It's your first and foremost foundation of living and everything that comes from that. I think there was another question I was going to ask you to do with the breath, and I've forgotten it now. Another thing I did want to ask you though is about supplementation. You said you didn't really focus on supplementation too much when you were healing from your injury. Were there supplements though that you were taking, and are there supplements that you quote unquote prescribe to athletes to help either with performance and or recovery? And again, I suppose if there are supplements, they're potentially going to be different, right, for improving performance and for aiding recovery, healing from injury.
Yeah, supplements are wild. My personal story with supplements is I was giving my power away to supplements for a good part of my career, because there was a portion of my career when I really didn't believe that I could do it on my own. Like, I felt that I needed an edge. So I got a bunch of supplements and started, hacking my way to the top. And at the end of the day, what I think was happening was I actually was taxing my organs and my liver too much by throwing it like 30 compounds at once. So I'm on the side where I'm a believer in supplements, but I'm on the side of like, you are probably focusing too much on your supplements and your diet and not enough on your circadian health, your sunlight, your water, your electromagnetism, and your breath and your movement and your mindset and what really fucking matters. Because you can placebo hack your way into anything. And a supplement is it's a supplement. That's all. And so if you are a top tier athlete and you are living on that edge, then yeah, supplements are super helpful and can be extremely beneficial. And also if you're kind of, a weekend warrior, like creatine, huge, do it. Like, it's the most researched supplement on earth and has a cognitive boost, testosterone boost, muscle building boost, like all these healthy things. I'm a huge fan of creatine. I'm a huge fan of bone broth, like beef gelatin, like those are really powerful supplements. Shilajit is a huge one. It's really important to get sourcing correct. Buddy who runs Based Supplements, he's actually pretty involved in the UFC side of things. He's got a pure product that I'm a huge believer in. And methylene blue for people that are traveling a lot, that's super helpful. That can help keep electrons on the electron transport chain and minimize oxidative stress, and it's antiviral, and it's all these different things. And so methylene blue is definitely a big one for me. I'm a fan. And then it's like people have, specific problems. Maybe you have a lot of heavy metals. Maybe you have candida. Maybe you have SIBO. Maybe you have whatever. Usually it's a matter of deleting supplements first and an understanding that most supplements are tainted even when they say they're not. Most supplements are garbage, truly snake oil. But there's some supplements that I'll use for the brain, like lion's mane. Love lion's mane. I take it a lot. People say it can make your androgen receptors less dense. I don't fucking buy it. but maybe it's true. But I love it. Like, I'll take it before sleep. I'll take it after a workout, during a workout, before work. I do cycle everything as a rule. So for anyone on supplements or on foods or whatever, like, I would recommend cycling. I would recommend even cycling breath work. Like, there's a period in my life where I had to go hard Wim Hofing, breathing really hard, nonstop, like, went and just sort of burned through the coal in my psyche. And then I sort of burned through it, and I was able to then come out the other side. And it's coincided with me getting concussed like 3 weeks before Olympic trials. And I concussed myself doing breath work on a bench. I was in the middle of a run. I sat down, did some breath work. I concussed myself, and I was concussed for a good 3 weeks. And that's when I really developed the Vortex method, because you can Wim Hof your way to a bunch of energy, but if you're suffering from autonomic dysregulation, your nervous system's all over the place, it's really difficult to heal. So I focused then on breath holds and rest and digest type breath work. And that's where that sort of was created. And I healed myself and I raced and it was fine. But cycle everything back to supplements, and kind of back to water. When I was drinking like Mountain Valley spring water, I threw away my ailment tea. I was like, I don't crave these supplements. I don't crave the electrolytes at all. I'm getting all the minerals from the water. And I think that the problem with liquid IV is it's a sugar bomb. The problem with Gatorade is it's got blue 40 and red dye and whatever, and it's horrible for you. The problem with LMNT is that the mineral ratios are off. It's supposed to be 2 to 1 to 1, sodium, potassium, magnesium. LMNT is way off, and it's sodium chloride. So it's just cheap table salt, like no trace minerals, not going to absorb, not going to charge the water battery matrix in your cells. Maybe a little esoteric, but the best electrolytes are going to be ones that are full of trace minerals, pure forms of salt, sea salt. And I'm actually launching one called Purest Electrolyte. So unabashed plug there for the realest electrolyte on the market. But electrolytes are huge. Like, that's why Shilajit is huge. If you can get magnesium, that's huge. Ultra Mag is huge. Like, people will go into the doctor's office and they'll be like, oh yeah, we need heart surgery, open heart surgery next week, 2 weeks from now, come back. And they start taking magnesium, and then they come back and they're like, oh, you don't need open heart surgery. It's like, we have it so backwards. You're an electromagnetic being, and these minerals are the conductors of these signals. So the more mineralized you are, the more magnetic and electric you are. And then you combine that with a lot of light, and your thermodynamics are raised. You're able to consciously move energy in your body, and you're fucking unstoppable. Whether it's an injury, or if you're an athlete, or if you're a businessman, whatever it is, it's all about these pure energy sources, these pure inputs, that bottom of the triangle. And so supplements lie maybe a little higher up, especially when you're in an arena where it's milliseconds that dictate the winner and the loser. And you guys are fighting tooth and nail, trying to be 1%, 0.01% better on this specific thing than the other guy. So the sleep is 0.01% better. The diet's 0.01% better. The supplements can then be very helpful if you get the right stack. I'm trying to think. I'm like, maybe not the biggest supplement guy anymore. Like organ pills, liver pills, bison, beef, testicle, liver, spleen, whatever, heart. Those are really powerful as well. Baking soda before bed, minimizes and before working out as well, minimizes the acidity and the lactic acid buildup. Huge. I used to race with that. I actually used to put a cream, sodium bicarbonate cream, all over my body before I got into my race. It was so hectic, but I'm glad that's over. But sodium bicarbonate is really, really powerful stuff for sure. Highly recommend that for someone that's performing or trying to sleep better. Amino acids are really good, especially intra workout if they're trying to gain muscle. I could probably go for days and days just because it's kind of my zone. But lion's mane is, for brain specifically, lion's mane is great. Huperzia serrata is great, or huperzine A, I think it's called. Alpha GPC, ginkgo biloba. L-theanine is awesome too. I am a huge fan of L-theanine, especially for sleep, because the majority of the growth hormone in your body is released in the first 90-minute cycle of sleep. So if you can lock that in, take some L-theanine, take some magnesium, do a meditation, do some breath work, conk out like a rock, you're well on your way to having those natural steroids release and cleaning up your competition. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think that was really helpful insights on supplements. You obviously named quite a few there. And I think really the principle for people to take away is, number one, supplementation, oftentimes less is more. Like you said, people are taking 30 compounds a day, and it's like, do you actually need those? The quality of the supplements, your supplementation needs to be just that, a supplement to your lifestyle, to your diet. And really, nature gives us all we need, right? You're talking about beef gelatin, you're talking about bone broth, the organs, all these herbs. And supplementation is just a way to get that into your diet or into your consumption when you're not able to consume those compounds through your diet. So I think, people shouldn't view supplementation as a thing in itself, although it is, of course. Really, they need to think about how they can get those things that they're looking for in supplements from nutrition, of course, but even from things such as their sleep, breath work. How can you get the effects of these compounds without having to take these compounds in a synthetic, artificial, processed form? To finish off, let's go into just a little bit of mindset. I think two things that people can really take away from this conversation, amongst many others, of course, is the power of the breath and the power of belief. When it comes to mindset, do you have certain mindsets that you think are really good for athletes to have, again, on the performance side or the recovery, the healing from injury side? And if so, what are those?
As I see it, I can boil down the mindset's derivative to faith or fear. So you can have a mindset that's based on fear, which is coming from an inherent state of lack and inadequacy. And there's probably a lot of like this vengeance built in, this resentment of someone that wronged you, and you're attached to them, and it becomes this limiting belief. And you are now sort of at the mercy of these erratic fears, and you haven't yet overcome them. And that's what I competed under, was just this, I want the approval. I'm letting the results sheet tell me who I am. I need to I need to impress this coach in order to get a spot on the team. Like, it's a very interesting paradigm to be operating as an athlete in the world, because the inherent competition makes it such that faith and fear both have valid strengths and weaknesses to them. And faith is maybe not as, you really can't have enough faith or enough hope or enough belief in yourself. The weakness is that some people mistake faith with this detachment from what's real. And what's real
with the delusion.
Yes, exactly. And it can become this delusion where it's like, I'm doing everything that I can possibly do anyways, so I'm not going to do as much. And that's where maybe someone who's operating on fear when they're training can out-train the person on faith. But then during competition, that fear is going to be your greatest weakness, and it's most likely going to make you crack under pressure, because that's something that you haven't been able to get the fangs out of your flesh. And it's a difficult conundrum. But I would say that that's most athletes are coming from an inherent state of lack and an inherent state of, I don't know if I'm worthy. I don't know if I'm deserving. I hate my old coach. I hate my dad. I hate my mom. I hate my teammate. I'm vengeful against this guy. I'm going to go after him or whatever. And I'm going to take what's mine and build and destroy and see where the cards lay, whatever. Faith is so much more powerful than that. So fear is sort of this coal. You're burning coal. You can burn a lot of coal. Sometimes, usually for men in life, I believe there has to be a period where you go dark mode and you burn a fuckload of coal and you just burn through it. However, faith, hope, that's like nuclear. Now we're super mentally efficient, physically efficient. We believe in ourselves. We trust ourselves because we have done the work and gone into the fear head on, and we have liberated the fear from our bodies and from our minds such that it no longer cucks us. It doesn't have a hold over us anymore. We are able to overcome it through an act of letting go, through an act of acceptance, through an act of knowingness, not the need to know. Fear is, I need to know that I'm good enough. Faith is, I step into the arena with a absolute, utter, complete, non-negotiable belief in myself that this is not going to dictate my inherent value or worth or what I think about myself. I'm here to win. I'm here to enjoy the game and compete. And I'm doing it for the love of the game and because I have been bestowed a body and a mind that has been able to get to the Olympics in the first place. Sydney McLaughlin was like, pressure is not real. Pressure is self-imposed. There's no pressure for me here at the Olympics. I'm just here having fun. Now, it's easy to say that when you're a product, like you are insane talent and you're dusting everyone. When you're kind of coming from behind, there's a lot of fear because the world is always going to try to tell you who you are, including the results sheet. And if you take that as truth, then you're on a slippery slope, my friend, to quitting and burning out of your sport. If you let the results sheet dictate your worth or who the fuck you are, you might as well quit. If you let the world tell you who you are, if you let your teachers, your coaches, your teammates, your parents, your siblings, whoever, social media, your bank account, try to tell you who you are, you're giving your power away. And you're not coming from a place of knowingness or faith or belief in yourself that you can do anything and you can be anyone. And you can, when a negative thought comes in, you can release out of it. You are not stuck in the tension. I believe that a lot of, they had a study that was similar to this, but they had mice swim in water until they died. And then they put more mice in and they swam. And right before they died, they pulled them out and they dried them off. And then they put them back in and they swam for like twice as long. And like, that's the fear faith paradigm as I see it. When they had the hope that maybe I would get pulled out, I'm going to keep swimming for longer. You can run fucking fast from a saber-toothed tiger that's trying to kill you. Fear is powerful. But what if you knew that if you made it to that next hill and you had faith that if you just made it to that tree, you would live? How much faster would you run? Faster. And so truth is kind of lying it's in the contrast, but truth lies at these extreme polarities where it's like faith and fear, positive and negative, masculine and feminine. Train really hard when you're supposed to train really hard, train really easy when you're supposed to train really easy. That's what creates truth. When you're at the polarities, let's say, I've got some baseball clients. So you're a major league baseball player and you're going out on the pitch. When you go out there, it's like a slingshot. You have all this tension in the body, all this fear, pulling it back. This is the World Series. This is a really big deal. Lot on the line, a lot of pressure, a lot of tension pulled back. And if you don't have the faith to let it go, And the more fear you have, the farther back it goes. If you don't have the faith to let it go, that tension is going to snap and you're going to crack under pressure. You're going to choke. Especially if you have a bunch of unconscious or semi-conscious fears and beliefs in yourself, such that when you pull the slingshot back, there's a lot of fear because you're in the Major League World Series, but then there's this fear of what happened when you were 5 years old that you integrated and created a story around. And you don't even get the chance to have the faith in yourself and release. It just snaps. It's too much tension. You aren't in control then in that situation because you haven't gone in and done the shadow work, the work to liberate the fear from your muscle tissues, from your body, from your brain, such that it doesn't hold power over you anyways and anymore. So that in that moment, when you're in the World Series, a negative thought comes in like, what if you fuck up? You have the skill and the power and the knowingness to release from that thought and to release from that tension so that it does not snap your slingshot. And the farther you pull it back, you're at the Olympics, gold medal, it's pulled back really far. You better be able to release it. You better be able to have faith in yourself and a knowingness in your abilities and in the work that you've done. Like, we are all focused on the wrong thing in this day and age. We're focused on the negative things, all the reasons why we aren't good enough, why we aren't unconditionally lovable, why we aren't able to do the thing XYZ, because our nervous system's trying to keep us safe and it's trying to run away from things that are unknown. And that is extremely detrimental because the reticular activating system in our brains, the little bundle of neurons at the base of our brainstem, has been tasked with keeping us safe, focusing on the tiger when the tiger is there, not the birds chirping in the trees above us. Okay, great. Very useful. But what if you shifted the reticular activating system to all the reasons why you are going to win, all the reasons why you are good enough, all the reasons why you do the things you say you're going to do, and you should believe in yourself and you have the capabilities to get any result that you so desire, and that you are the manufacturer and the manifester of your reality. That is what you should be focusing on a day-to-day basis. So like, for example, to create a mindset, it's a matter of letting go of fear. It's a matter of actually getting rid of the conditions in the body that have been learned and that have been coded in, and just getting them into edit mode during breath work, let's say, and deleting them with intention, or slowly chipping away at the tension, releasing from the tension, because the tension is fear. The tension in your body right now, in your chest, whatever, it's like, my nervous system's just like, oh, I'm feeling it out. I'm talking to this guy, Nick. He's kind of a pussy, but whatever. And that is something that you can completely shift. That's the winners. That's how you adopt a mindset, is you shift what you're focused on day to day. What is the antenna trying to pick up on a day-to-day basis? And if you create 4 to 6 alarms on your phone, like I have all my clients do, and have them labeled, what are you most grateful for in this moment? Why do you believe in yourself? What are you thinking about right now? What was the best part of your day? Suddenly you go through your days and you'll have an incredible moment with a friend and you're like, oh, I wonder if this is what I'm going to say is the best part of my day at the end of the day when my alarm goes off. You start really training these things such that they are hardwired. So when you step out onto the field or onto the mat against an opponent, you're able to fuse the fear and the faith together into one harmonious, powerful engine of power, of strength, of belief. And that is how you beat an opponent, in my opinion, skillfully, with intention, with integrity. And you also get to enjoy your life. You get to have deep satisfaction. You get to deepen your relationship with God and your loved ones and your craft and your family and your community and nature. Such a more fulfilling way to operate in life. And I wasted a bunch of years operating out of fear, competing out of fear, training out of fear, every day training, knowing I wasn't good enough, knowing I wasn't going to win, but I'm doing it as hard as I possibly can to prove myself wrong, to prove my own self-belief wrong. That was a part of my journey, ultimately. And now I'm on that other side where I'm burning nuclear and I'm getting to see, wow, I'm so much more mentally efficient. I'm not swept up in thoughts all day long. I'm just present. And really it comes down to being present with whatever it is, whether it's fear or faith. Presence is the seat of personal power. Presence is flow state. Presence is peak performance. That's what everyone should be cultivating, because if they can't be present, then you're giving your power away and you're not going to compete as well. So really it's presence. ton of meditation, ton of breath work, ton of shadow work, all this kind of stuff leads to a place where you can sit, feel your ass against a chair. You can hear things. You can see the whole field. You have a beginner's mind. You have single pointed focus, especially when it matters. And that's how you outrun your competition.
I think I have to say that's maybe the best mindset I've heard somebody give me for an athlete. You can either be driven by the fear that you're not enough or driven by the faith that you are. Nick, this was absolutely brilliant. We will have to do another one of these at some point because this was a great and enlightening conversation. Where can people go if they either want to work with you or just simply consume your content, watch your breathwork videos, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm at Based Ethos on X and Instagram, BASEDETHOS, and also on YouTube, I believe, Based Ethos. And I have a Vortex Method guided breathwork on YouTube, and I have a Calendly link if you want to explore further.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. This was great.